years. He actually came out to an event that we were holding in New England back in 2022. And I got to meet Rob. We really built a tremendous friendship over the years. We've done podcasting together. We've spoken together on different stages, all these different things. We've really got to know each other. Rob's a fantastic presenter, but he's also a fantastic businessman. One of the conventions that we did, we actually got to interview with a gentleman, Jay Conrad Levinson, who is the author of Guerrilla Marketing, who happened to be a very big influence for Rob. And Jay always talks about being an entrepreneur. Rob is definitely the epitome of that. He's done so many different things over the years, and he's going to talk a little today about some of the things that you can control and what you can't control. He's a dear friend, and so I bring out to the stage with a whole lot of joy and a lot of pride, my friend, Mr. Rob Peters. Please give a warm welcome, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, Mike, don't go too far. It takes a lot of work to put a show like this. First of all, big props to the management and the show producer. Can we give them a big round of applause? Rob Savickas and his team. And you know what? These two guys backstage, if you're ever a presenter and you need somebody to make you laugh, they'll do it. Give it up for Sean Big Daddy McKee and Mike Fernino, your show MCs. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, are we ready to learn? Yeah. Is everybody awake? All right, was anybody in here on Sunday, first of all? Yeah. Was anybody in this room on Sunday? If you know me, you know I'm a NASCAR nut. And there was a Daytona 500 party in here on Sunday. And I sat right over there. And I'm sitting in this room and I'm going, damn, my PowerPoint is going to look freaking huge on that screen. And I'm going to look really, really tiny. But it's great to be here. The space is great. And what you're about to experience, everybody, is based on a true story. A lot of my presentations, I just put together an outline of things that I think are problematic and how to solve them, and we're going to do that today. But I want to tell you a little adventure that I had about 7 or 8 months ago. I had to go to West Virginia. Anybody in the town in here from West Virginia? You can't get there from here. I'm sorry, you can't get there from Boston. So I had to fly to Charlotte, and I was going to this little regional airport called Beckley. Where's that? Where is he? Beckley.
Been there.
Oh, jeez. They'll let anybody in here who can raise their hand and open their mouth, right? All right. So you can't fly from Boston to Beckley. You got to fly to Charlotte, and then you got to take a regional airline from Charlotte to Beckley. So I get to Charlotte. I have breakfast. Go to get on the plane. And we're sitting there, and it's like really hot. It's one of those jets, so you got one row here, and you got dual rows of seats here. I'm sitting next to a mom, and behind the mom is her 13-year-old daughter and her husband. And it's really warm, and I had said, oh man, it's really hot. It's like 100 degrees in Charlotte, and we're hearing that the engines are doing weird stuff. And finally, the pilot gets on and says, we're going to have to deplane you because we're having trouble with the AC, and it's going to take about 30 minutes. So out of the back of the plane, you hear, if I have to get off this plane, this isn't me, this is behind me. If I have to get off this plane, you better be giving me a freaking voucher. I'm like, ooh, okay. So we all get up and deplane, and I made eye contact with this guy who was beet red. Red is your shirt, sir. Okay? And he was pissed. I said, all right. We get off the plane. He gets off the plane, and he's walking around like this, and he's screaming at somebody. And because he's that loud, we determine that he's screaming at the airline. I don't understand why I have to get off this plane. Why can't you guys get anything right? So on and so forth. So for the entire 30 minutes that we're waiting for the plane to restart, he's on the phone yelling. Finally, we all get back on the plane, and as we're getting back on the plane, anybody from North Carolina in the room? When you see the sky go really, really dark, and it's not because it's like 6, 7 o'clock at night, it's like 3, you know it's bad weather, right? It starts to downpour. My phone goes off and says, ground stop at Charlotte Airport. I'm freaking out going, okay, I got to get to Beckley. I got an airport shuttle, but I'm not going to worry about it. And you hear this guy who's now still back on the plane, what the hell? Flipping weather. And I'm just like, you got to roll with it at that point. So next thing you know, we get in the air. We're flying to Beckley. Thank goodness. About an hour later. So the route for this airline is on your screen right there, okay? It's a regional flight from Charlotte to Beckley, and we end up in Parkersburg. You know where Parkersburg is? I'm so sorry. And I'll tell you why in 30 seconds. So we go to land in Beckley, we hear the landing gear go down, and we feel the descent. And then all of a sudden you feel the ascent and the landing gear goes back in. This happens a couple more times. After the third time, we feel like we're just in the air. And the pilot comes on and says, the cloud cover is too dense in Beckley, we're going to Parkersburg. We get to Parkersburg, we're sitting on the tarmac because apparently the people in Parkersburg decided to go home early. And when I say people, the grounds crew. And they tell us, oh, we're gonna figure out how to get you to Beckley tonight. We get off the plane, we're talking to people, finally the grounds crew came in, the people from the airline came in, they were phenomenal. And the people from the airline go, we're gonna try to get you all to Beckley, but do you know how many taxi cabs are in Parkersburg, West Virginia? Anybody?
None.
3, who said 3? 3. Thanks, Mitch Taylor. 3, and there's 20 of us that have to go to Parkersburg. So I quip up just saying, well, is there any way, like, you could put some of us up? There's no way they're gonna let all 3 taxis go through bad weather to go to Parkersburg and back. And that's what they did. So long story short, is the majority of that stuff was out of my control. But I got a big lesson in how I could have handled it, and I hope you all got it briefly from that brief story. It's one of those you kind of had to be there things. You could be the guy to roll with it, or you could be the guy in the back looking for a voucher, right? We're gonna dissect some of the things today that impact your business and how you can handle them better and determine what you can and can't control. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you in the back of the room. Are you ready? Yeah. It's 11 o'clock. Listen, I'm on Eastern time. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon in my head right now. I'm ready to go, and I hope you are too. So let's get to work. Any industry veteran in this room knows who the gentleman on the right in that picture is? Yeah? Raymar. Pictured there with my lovely fiance Kim, who couldn't be here this week. That was Las Vegas, I think it was 2017. Raymar was one of my best friends in the business and my mentor, and he was one of the people who really helped shape a lot of business decisions that I did or did not make. And we became friends. He came camping with my family. He flew out after working till 12 midnight on the West Coast, flew across the country overnight to surprise me at my surprise 50th birthday party 3 years ago. I don't know how many people would go out of their way to do that instead of sending a card or a note, but it was important to him. And one of the things that Raymar made me realize is it's not about the check clearing the bank. It's not about booking the gig. It's about the relationships. And if you can master the art of relationships, you're going to do great in this business. I miss him every day. I feel that when we're together like this, it's nice to take a moment and tell stories and remember that. And with that being said, before I proceed with what he taught me, I know he's here with me today, and I hope he's here in your hearts if you knew him. Here's the one thing he taught me repeatedly. If I had $1 for every time he taught me this, I wouldn't have to be up here speaking. You cannot control what other people say or think about you. That was probably a once-a-month conversation with him and I when I came to him and asked for advice or needed a sounding board or anything relevant to that. You can't control it, but what you can control are things that might lead up to that. So let's break it down a little bit, okay? What we can't control. We cannot control how guests at an event may or may not respond to our performance. Now, for those of you that want to be argumentative about that point, because I've heard some feedback about this, I have always told my clients, there is one way that I can guarantee that every guest is going to dance at your event. And it involves me calling in a SWAT team, armed. We can't control that all the time. We can't control what people say, do, or think about us or our business. Is that pretty fair? Yeah. couldn't hear you. Is that pretty fair? Yeah. We're going to do this a lot, people, so if you get a drink at the bar, sip. We cannot control some of the other vendors we work with and how they present their services. How many times have you been at a wedding where you're working with a photographer you've never worked with before, and they come up to you right before you're about to do the father-daughter dance and say, we're pulling them for sunset shots right now, right? We can't control that. We can control how to prevent it, right? And we're going to talk about that. We cannot control how our clients treat or view us. We can contribute to that, but we can't control how they're going to respond. And you cannot control what your competition says or does. Does that all seem pretty fair to the room? Yeah. Awesome. What can we control? We can control how we deliver our services to our customers, whether it's through your performance or through your equipment. We can control how we run our businesses. We can control who we market and sell to. We can control what services we provide. And we can control our network and who we surround ourselves with. Most importantly, everybody, we can control how we react to what happens to us. Does that seem pretty fair to everybody in the room? Yeah. Awesome. You're all awake. That's great. Everybody take your cameras out, because if there's one slide in my presentation I would like for you to take out of here today, it's the next one. I was a guest at Mid-America, the Louisville DJ series for all of us who have been in the industry a long time. And there was a presenter who said something similar to this. And I don't know who it was, but I am going to say that if it's you, I will gladly amend the slide later. But more importantly, I've amended it because I've given it my own little touch. If you act like a professional and you present yourself like one, you will be respected like one and compensated accordingly. You can control that. It's funny, and you know what? I would like to think that a lot of us in the room are not what I'm about to describe. You are all taking time out of your lives, away from your families, to come here and be better, not just performers, but business people. So when I say there are those keyboard jockeys out there who jump online and go, I demand to get a meal, and I hold a contract in front of the catering service manager that says that I'm going to get paid at this point in time. That's not professional. More importantly, though, if you do that, please let me give you a tip, and I'm not going to put you on the spot. If you're one of those people that has that clause in your contract, take it out. Take it out right now, because your contract is with your client. Your contract is not with the venue, and expecting your client to do something that eventually the venue's going to have control over anyway isn't going to hold up in court. Instead, use that time to your advantage to coordinate with the venue and have a conversation. If you're diabetic or you need to take pills or whatever, communicate that with them. More importantly, if it's that big of a deal, there's $5 footlongs at Subway. All right.
Not anymore.
Thank you. So let's break it down. We're going to talk about a few things today that are going to be specific to what we do. Some of it's performance, and some of it is business oriented. So let's jump in and talk a little bit about controlling the audience. As I said before, we cannot control how the audience responds to our service, or can we? You can control certain things. If you have, and I'm going to emphasize a lot of this slide with, if you have built trust with your client and have a clear understanding of their expectations, you can read your room and gauge your audience's response based on that and make decisions on what you're going to say, what you're going to play to appeal to that group. With the audience as well, one of the things we can control is putting our best foot forward. Additionally, understanding how, and I said this just a moment ago, understanding how the client's goals are going to fit in with how we get the guests to respond. More importantly, though, your mic work. if you're a high energy guy and you're working with senior citizens doing jukebox bingo, you're not there that long. It's also about playing the right music, not only for the crowd, but to make the client happy. And we can control all of that. And with that, we can adjust the sales a little bit to get a little bit more of a favorable response from the guests. What's one of the goals of a good performance? What do we get out of it? Shout it out.
A memorable experience.
A memorable experience. What else?
Referrals.
Who? Referrals. Who said referrals? We're close. I'm looking for one word in particular, and I'm surprised. Who said reviews? That's our next slide. At the end of the day, we want favorable reviews because, as Mike Walter will tell you, getting thousands and thousands and thousands of them, congratulations, Mike.
Thank you.
It helps with building your business reputation and thusly makes it a little bit easier to build trust with a client, because if you can do it for thousands of other people, you can do it for them. For the most part. There are going to be exceptions. Every couple's different. But at the end of the day, we can solicit reviews. You might have did the best show of your life. You might have left it all out on the dance floor, but guess what? You might get that bad review, and that happened to me. As I said in the beginning, what did I say? This whole presentation's about a true story, right? I take great pride in saying that this is the only bad review I have on Wedding Wire, and I'm sharing it to you as a learning point. Now, before you start reading, up here first, I have to give you backstory. This was a wedding that I did, that I had to do, because I had to fire a DJ. I don't generally fire DJs. Anybody in my market that knows me knows that I generally don't fire you unless you're really screwed up in the head or you stole from me or you lied. That's it. Okay? I had to step in and do this wedding, and I walked in blind. As I worked with this particular bride and groom and called them into my office, Mom came along. And I met, for the first time in that point in time, and probably the worst in my 36-year career, Momzilla. This was not Callie's wedding. This was Mom's wedding for Callie. And she made it clear to me that that's what's going to happen. And in fact, in the conversation, she was so sold on the DJ that we originally were going to have for her. She's like, well, can you make an exception? I'm like, no, I can't. I almost lost my business because I had to fire this guy. Long story short, the one thing I said to them, I went through everything, I explained my stance, and I said, you've got two choices. I will be glad to come in and do your wedding, and I can assure you that I'm going to treat it the way Ray would have. Or I will be happy to walk out front, cut you a check for your retainer fee, and guide you to somebody who might be better suited for you. And I walked out of the room and said, you can have as much time to talk about this. When you're ready, open the door. Do you ever have a moment in your life where you sat there and go, you look at something and you go, maybe I should just make this decision for them? Uh-huh. That's what happened. And I'm sitting at my desk and I'm answering emails and my checkbook is right here and I'm looking at it. And I'm going, do I value my reputation and do this so that, I can make them feel better about it and not inconvenience them? Or do I write the check and wipe my hands of this? Ironically, at that very moment, the door opened. And Mom said, come on back in. And she said, we would love to have you. Perfect. Revised the agreement, went on our merry way. I did a detail appointment with this bride probably about 2 weeks later. I spent 2 hours with her and we detailed everything. Do you know how much of that actual agenda actually made it into the wedding? None. 20 minutes later, Mom called me and said, I just looked this over. You were not doing any of that at this wedding. And I looked at my checkbook again. And I said, you know what? I'm a glutton for punishment. I am the king of second chances. So long story short, day of the wedding comes, we set up, and every other hour, I'm watching Mom, I'm checking things out. After cocktail hour, Mom comes up to me and says, by the way, Callie's supposed to dance with her grandfather, and they didn't pick a song. So I went to Callie, I said, what do you think? She said, well, I don't want anything stuffy or slow. By the way, Grandpa is 84 years old and on a walker. So she goes, let's go talk to him. And he didn't like What a Wonderful World. He didn't like the way you looked tonight. But he liked Stevie Wonder, so we recommended Isn't She Lovely? I even made Callie, when I walked away, make sure he was comfortable with it. We did it, everything went off without a hitch. End of the wedding, I walked up to Mom, hey Mom, how'd it go? This was fantastic, this was exactly what I wanted, you were great. You know what? I am sorry I ever doubted you when we had that first meeting. Handed me an envelope with $100 in it. I felt great. Went out in the hallway, took my camera phone, sat down with the bride and groom, took a quick 1-minute testimonial. Rob was great at our wedding, everything else. By the way, the Vimeo link is going to be in the next slide. We'll get to that in a second. About 3 weeks later, I get an email. This is not the email, this is the review. And it details, that's the general synopsis, by the way, and we'll go through that in a second. And thanks to my good friend Mitch Taylor, who sat down with me and helped me write a very good response to Mom. Mom wanted her money back. Mom didn't get a dime back. 2 weeks later, this review pops up. Now, before we go any further, you're probably reading some of that English and going, huh? This woman also works for the Brockton, Massachusetts public school system. I felt bullied but was told he does, or dose, a good job by the place I had the venue. I wanted one of the men that works for Rob, but he no longer worked there when my daughter's wedding took place. I spoke to him, and he told me he was professional and been DJing for a long time. He understands what wedding music is about. My daughter did not understand just what she likes. I tried to tell him I was the mother of the bride and the one paying, but it did not matter to him, which, again, this is her feedback. I'm not going to argue any of this at this point because I want to let her know how she feels. When my 85-year-old father did the dance for my daughter and father-daughter, my husband had passed away, he played a fast song, and that's all he played. Not one slow song. By the way, this is around the time you've got virtual DJ, and what do you get out of virtual DJ, friends? A playlist! So, you can get the general gist about how she's unhappy. Is that pretty fair? You've kind of read it while I've been talking? Mm-hmm. Yep. So, I took Mitch's email that we developed, and I wrote her back, online. Thank you for sharing your feedback and your thoughts. I do appreciate your feedback. It's helpful to my growth as a professional DJ entertainer. I'm sorry if you felt the circumstances surrounding your original entertainer made you feel bullied. That was not my intention. In my meeting on 12/15, I informed you the original entertainer was no longer employed. I felt that considering the circumstances and as the owner, providing your services professionally would be in the best interest of your daughter's wedding. And at the conclusion of that meeting, I insisted we move forward only if you were confident and felt comfortable. Based on our discussions throughout the planning process and in the response to the guests, which was indicated by a full dance floor. By the way, she had a videographer who gave me footage. I feel I did the best to provide a fun wedding experience. For slow songs, I did play At Last, as well as 2 slow dances during Crazy Hour. Let's put it this way. Crazy Hour was something we developed, the 3 of us, as part of that wedding. It's not anything that's a Boston thing. It's not a new wedding trend. It's just what we call that 1 hour where we did a bunch of crazy music that they wanted. According to my notes from the wedding, in addition, I played the majority of your requests, including Me Build Me Up Buttercup and several oldies from the 60s and 70s. When it comes to her bride's dance with her grandfather, we absolutely leave that decision up to her and provide her with suggestions. She chose Isn't She Lovely? And we did the best to make that moment theirs. She never told me any of this that night. And again, if you look at it from her perspective, how could she, right? She's busy greeting people and everything else. So I understand that, but at the same time, if she had said something to me, what could I have done? Adjusted. And I also, as a side note, because I don't think she saw it, put the link to the video with her daughter and her son-in-law. And I thanked her. Here's my point. I can't control that she was unhappy. But I can control the narrative that's going to be online and show the public that I valued her opinion enough and that I responded factually. I didn't attack her character. I responded with facts. Facts and numbers, the two things that don't lie. So here's what you can take away from all of this, and I hope that's a little bit of a learning experience for you. You should be reading each one of your reviews as a learning experience, even if it's a 5-star. Is Randy Bartlett in the room? No? I always, when I train new DJs or work with any of my team, on the way home from the event, we have a conversation about what could we have done 1% better. Okay? Respond to each one of them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It shows you are engaged and concerned about your online reputation, the success of your business, and the success of each client you work with. Taking a little extra time is a personal touch. If it's a bad one, try to take it offline. In this case, I had already tried to respond to her offline. She very simply was trying to turn the heat up so that I would possibly consider writing a check to her to take it down. And I have encountered DJs and people in the wedding business who would rather give money back than take a moment and try to be factual to respond to customer dissatisfaction. Last but certainly not least, address but don't attack. Remember one thing, we all take pride in our work, right?
Right.
Don't take it personally. You can't control what they say, do, or think. Let's talk about your network. You are only good as the company you keep. True? I couldn't hear you guys. Come on, true?
True.
All right. I know it's getting close to lunchtime. I'll get you out of here with plenty of time, I promise. You can control the people you surround yourselves with. And when it comes to the people in your network, there are some things you should be looking at, whether you're a newbie or you've been here for 50 years. The first thing you should be looking at are the people in your network a mutually beneficial situation? Meaning, are you be able to contribute and receive out of that relationship? I got one guy in my market, and I love him to death. I really do. He's a realtor. And a really personable guy. He hasn't referred any work to me, which is okay, but he's one of those guys that you would sit down and watch football with, which I do occasionally. But it seems like he's invested in the fact that he knows that my mom's going to be selling the house later this year, because every conversation is, "Hey, Rob, how are you? How's your mom doing? Is she selling the house yet?" Every time. Okay? Prioritize your connections. If you were to sit down, and there's your homework out of this seminar, write down every person in your network that would be most likely to be a good connection to not only share business with, but receive business from. You're probably going to come up with, I don't know, about 100, maybe 150 people. If you get to 200, you're in good shape. But prioritize them. Your A's are the ones that it's mutually beneficial. You're both passing stuff back and forth, and it's happening at least 3 or 4 times a year. Your B's, okay, maybe not 3 or 4 times a year, but maybe it's happening once or twice. Your C's, maybe you're getting one once a year, once every 18 months. Your D's and your F's, those are the ones that are just there. My realtor friend is moving down the list rather quickly, and I'm okay with that. But speaking of your ABCs, always be connecting. Here at this show this week, you should be connecting. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But always be connecting, because you never know where that next piece of referral is going to come from. And let's be honest, referrals cost us nada. Shaking hands and kissing babies. Get rid of the vampires. Is my friend Mike, the realtor, a vampire? Yeah. But that's okay. I'll still keep them around, because we still have fun when we go out and grab a beer here and there. And last but certainly not least, never judge a book by its cover. If you go, anybody go to Chamber of Commerce networking groups, BNI, anything like that? Hands up if you do. Okay. Do you run into the people who, when they get up and do their 1 minute, they say something like, I work with people with a net worth of over $1 million to be able to generate more wealth? Sound familiar? Do we talk to those people? Do we at least shake hands and give them a business card? You know why? Because their wives probably don't work, and they sit on the boards of charitable organizations that will pay for your services. True story. So never judge that book by its cover. Let's talk about your competition for a minute. You cannot control your competition and what they say, do, or think. Okay? I've listened to clients, and I do consulting now for DJs. I do DJ business consulting. And one of the things I find, well, there we go. One of the things I find when I'm doing that is there are conversations that go, you know, this guy in my market, I've been doing bubble parties forever, and he took the idea, and he's not doing it, and he. You're wasting your energy. You can't control him. I consider it to be a form of, the best form of flattery. He's trying to build success, taking an idea that I had. Guess what? It happens all the time in the advertising world. It's nothing new in this world. And unfortunately, in our industry, it's going to happen. But how do you control it? Put your blinders on. Put your blinders on, and remember, the only person you should be concerned with from a business standpoint that's going to matter is the same guy that stares back, same guy or girl, excuse me, that stares back at you in the morning when you get out of bed. Be concerned with your success. And if you feel very strongly that you've got the superior product, go out and sell it and let the results speak for themselves. Because eventually, and I learned this from doing kids' parties, I had people that tried to emulate what I did and didn't understand how it all worked. One of them was the morning show radio guy for the #1 radio station in Boston. He did that show 1 year after I did it the year prior. He doesn't do them anymore. He sold me his bubble machine. It is and it is. It is what it is. Develop a network of colleagues in your market. Look around the room. Everybody just look around the room for a minute. Does anybody know of a competitor from your market that is here at the show this week?
Yeah.
Okay. Put your hands down for a minute because I need to take a quick roll call. Boston, Providence, hands up. Awesome. All right, I got a couple of you. Great. Develop a network of colleagues in your market. First of all, we are an industry that really does need to focus on a continual basis the U word, unity. Secondly, I'm going to get personal for a minute. I hope you don't mind, and I hope you'll indulge me for a minute. I've had several times in 36 years where I've been prepping or loading the truck or getting ready to go to an event where I've gotten a phone call that stops everything you do. I had a phone call one day involving my now ex-wife and had to immediately go to the hospital. I got a phone call that my cousin, my best friend, who I grew up with, died 20 minutes before I was supposed to walk into somebody's house and do a kid's birthday party. In those moments that we never think of, you need to know who your friends are. So make some damn friends. Because you never know when that moment's going to come. It could happen this weekend.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me a moment. Thank you. That's the hard part about presenting is I wanted to get personal with all of you because I am going to sidebar for a minute. I've been presenting at these shows for almost over 20 years, and I do it because you all are the new wave. I was sitting in that seat right there where you were, taking notes and taking it all in like a sponge. And now we have to help that next generation. so that you guys can share success and be successful and carry this on. AI, I don't believe in AI. I believe we're going to be here for a long time. Last but certainly not least, when it comes to your competitors, guess what? It's your money. It's your business. Don't worry about their money and their business. It's not your problem. So move on. Show of hands. Raise your hand. We're going to do a little exercise. Raise your hand if you market to and entertain at wedding celebrations. Awesome. Hang on. Keep your hands up. This is going to take a minute. Keep your hand up if you do or entertain at bar or bat mitzvahs. Keep your hand up or put your hand up if you do corporate events. Keep your hand up or put your hand up if you entertain any other kinds of events. Now, everybody look around the room. See how many hands are up? Put your hands down. Thank you. We're all going after the same work, if you really think about it. When you look at a lot of DJ websites, and I'm in the middle of a huge rebrand, so I have no shame in showing you some of the stuff you're seeing here today. That's what my website looks like. We can be compared, ladies and gentlemen, to the automotive repair industry. Let me explain. We all have a mechanic, right? We all have one guy that we go to for oil changes and brake jobs and tune-ups. Fair enough? But when we need a transmission replaced, who do we go to? Most general mechanics won't touch it. They'll refer you to a transmission guy. Here's the point. We worry as an industry about things such as being, quote, just another DJ, or going into the Brides of Massachusetts and Rhode Island Facebook page and seeing that there are about 52 other, quote, DJs, and our name is being mentioned as a referral, which is flattering, but guess what? Think about it from the bride side. When they look at website after website, and they see that we're all doing weddings and corporate events and bar mitzvahs and everything else, and we're not standing out, guess what? It's easy to get lumped in. It's easy to get lumped into being just another DJ when you don't understand how the public's going to see it. So how do we get around that? Real easy. Focus on marketing what you specialize in. And let the chips on everything else fall where they may. But Rob, if I do bar and bat mitzvahs and weddings and I take one of them, I'm going to lose revenue. Brand it. My company, if you ever got an email address from me up until about a month ago, an email from me up until about a month ago, in my signature, it had my Rob Peters Entertainment logo on the left-hand side, and underneath it had our brands. And it had my kids' entertainment brand, and my photo booth brand, and it had my game show brand, which you're going to see in a minute. Okay? I brand and specialize and market my services targeted. I have a dedicated website that I'm going to show you right now for my game show business. Okay? And that's the direction I'm going in. After September 30th of 2024, I'm no longer DJ. That's my last wedding. In fact, I'm only taking wedding and mitzvahs on referral. I'm shutting down my website. I'm taking down Wedding Wire and The Knot. Because I'm having a lot of fun doing these. I'm having a lot of fun getting up and doing corporate team building and game shows and bar trivia. And guess what? I get 20 leads on my general Rob Peters Entertainment email a week. And because of a coding issue that my web guy can't seem to understand, 15 of them are spams. We'll help you get to the top of Google, or we'll help you with backlinks. Delete, 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 delete. I get 6 a week here, and they all want what's there. No spam. And I'm charging, because it's a specialized field, more money. And there's not too many people in the Boston or Providence markets that have made the investment in game shows and trained hosts and done the marketing to present fun game shows for events. Now, I'm not saying take notes and take my business model. If you want to buy it, it's for sale. 6 figures and I'll meet you at the blackjack table. Here's my point though. If you're specializing in weddings, brand yourself as a wedding specialist and put it out there that way. So that when somebody goes to your website and sees that you're a wedding entertainer and that's your primary focus and none of that other stuff matters, they're going to take you a little more seriously if they're serious about hiring a professional wedding entertainer. We all know those little Facebook groups are the bane of our existence, right? I'm looking for someone that's affordable. Can somebody recommend an affordable DJ? What's the date?
What's affordable?
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is, our industry needs to do better. We need to do better educating the public about how to do this right. And it needs to start realistically with each one of us. I'm not saying throw a seminar and teach it. What I'm saying though is let's change our individual perceptions in a way that does 2 things. Number 1, it helps the public understand what we do and how serious we are about their event success. And number 2, it allows us to make money. Fair?
Fair.
Awesome. At the end of the day, this is the mantra that I have promoted when I've come out and spoken before. I do not want to be the best DJ in Boston. Jerry Garcia, Jerry's quote says it all. You do not merely want to be considered just the best of the best. Because guess what? You know what best is? It's a 4-letter marketing word that everybody tries to use to separate themselves from the pack. And we all use it. You want to be considered the only one that does what you do. Because guess what? Then you stand out in the field. And when you stand out in the field, you're going to attract the right clients who are going to pay the right money and who are going to be the best clients you've ever worked for. I truly believe that. But my friends, it all gets back to this. As soon as you can understand that you cannot control what other people say, do, or think about you and make your business and performance decisions based on that and look at bigger picture stuff, it's a win. More importantly, this is the one thing I think needs to be something that we use when we go back to our markets or jump on Facebook to respond to a lead or somebody posts something. I'm going to tell you a little story real quick because I have a few more minutes here. I've been very blessed to be in this career 36 years, and I love what I do. It has afforded me to make a living. It has afforded me to be in 2 movies, one of which was a Disney movie. Anybody have kids? All right. So I'm going to let the cat out of the bag on this one because I usually don't talk about this publicly. As many of you know, I did bubble parties, and I ran bubble parties for years, and I still do run certain elements of that. Bubble parties was a kids' entertainment program for kids at daycare level. And we would go out and do kid shows at daycares and birthday parties and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. And it was a unique brand. I got a phone call one day from a company called Boston Casting. Boston Casting casts extras. Where's Mike Cordero? Mike, you know. I'll tell you the story about Mike and I were on the set of Godmother together, but that's a whole nother story. So they call me up and they go, "You're the bubble man." I go, "Yeah." "Well, we have a movie coming up, and we need somebody to come out and make giant bubbles." "Okay, how many hours is it?" "Well, the shoot should only take about an hour, but we're going to pay you for 4 hours. On a Saturday." My weekend Saturday rate, kids, at that point in time, was $250 for a 1-hour show. "Okay. So your regular rate on the weekend's $250, right?" "Yes." we're going to pay you $1,000 to come out. You're not going to be working the whole time because we're filming a movie. If you ever get approached to film a movie, remember one thing. You are not performing for the entire 4 hours or 7 hours or however long that shoot is. There is take after take after take, and there is so much downtime. And you're treated like a king or a queen. I go up to this little high school in Danvers with my bubble wand, and we start making big bubbles. Ironically, I found out that I'll never see the movie here in the United States because it was filmed for the German version of Lifetime. I should have known when they said the director's name was Helmut. But I got to see some cool stuff, like how was a movie made. So that was right around the time of the Nightmare Bride thing that we talked about earlier. So it was right before 2018, what was it, like 2018, 2019? There's a post that shows up from Boston Casting, and a bunch of the DJs go into the private DJ forums, which we all have in our markets, and they all turn around and start bashing the fact that this was going to pay $1,000 for 2 days. And you need to bring your DJ gear, and we're filming a movie at City Hall Plaza. And ironically, as I'm reading this, my email goes off. And it's from my contact at Boston Casting saying, "You're a DJ too, right?" "Yeah." "Well, we're having a hard time finding a DJ, and we need it for a tailgate scene." And they didn't tell me it was a Disney movie at the time. "And we're going to pay you, because you're on our roster, we're going to pay you $1,000 a day. You got to be there at 4:30 in the morning to get made up. And then we're going to shoot throughout the day. You'll be out of there by 5, 6 o'clock. And you got to do that for 2 days, and you got to bring your DJ gear." Okay. $2,000 on a Monday or a Tuesday? And I had so much downtime that I booked 3 or 4 weddings in the process. Your stage manager, and Mike, I hope you don't mind I'm putting you on the spot, but the funny thing is I show up on day one out of makeup, and I'm wearing, it was a Bruins tailgate party, so I got like Bruins stuff, and my face is all made up. I come downstairs, and who's waiting in line to check in but Mike Cordero? We hung out for 2 days. That was a lot of fun, and I got paid. And guess what? I didn't have to take my DJ gear with me. They had what you would have considered at that point in time to be a very substandard system, but it was for show. Here's my point. Remember I said don't judge a book by its cover? I found out when I showed up that day that they were filming a Disney movie, and I was kind of ticked because I took the one option buyout instead of negotiating for royalties. A lot of movies do that when you're an extra. But I'm in a Disney movie, and it helps with my marketing. It helped when I was doing a lot of kids' parties because I would tell the moms, "Hey, listen, are you concerned? Yeah. Do you have Disney Plus? Yeah. Look up Godmothered." That's the name of the movie, by the way. I'm in the tailgate scene, and I'm the DJ that is standing there doing this the whole time. $2,000 to stand there and do this for 2 days? I consider that a win. But it all comes back to this on the screen, folks. If you act like a professional and you present yourself like one, you will be respected like one and compensated accordingly. I am living proof. I want to thank you for your time today. You could have chosen to go to the tables. You could have chosen to sit in your room and watch whatever is on right at the moment. You could have chosen to go to the strip. But you all took your time today to come here and listen to me, and I hope I gave you all something to go back and be successful with. Because that's my goal getting up here. It's not about the fact that my name's on the marquee and I'm in the book and you get the funny little eyes. You like the Isaac Fingers picture that they put out there? That's changing next year, by the way. More importantly, though, I want to thank all of you that have come and listened to me speak over the years. I'm not going anywhere. I am changing careers a little bit. I'm still going to be staying relevant in this industry. You will still be able to see and hear from me. More importantly, though, if you need a sounding board or feel like you need some help with marketing or sales and want to become a little bit better, or you want to talk about branding your business so that you can have some good results and have a focus as being the person in your market that does what you do, I do take consulting clients. Feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.